12 missed calls from her, all in under an hour, and I didn't answer a single one. She was blowing up my phone like I was the villain, like I had abandoned her on our anniversary. Which is funny, because 3 days ago, I found a voicemail she must have forgotten to delete. It wasn't for me. It wasn't even meant to be heard. A soft voice. Hers, barely a whisper. He's pathetic. I can't even look at him anymore. Laughter in the background. A man's voice. Not mine. Then she said something that still hasn't left my head. He thinks we're just going through a dry spell. That one sentence shattered everything. You ever try to eat dinner next to someone who doesn't know you've already heard what they say about you when you're not around? You try to act normal, like your stomach isn't turning itself inside out. You try to chew. You try to smile. And they just sit there on their phone, texting someone else, probably the same guy who was laughing in that voicemail. She thought I'd still show up to the anniversary dinner she forgot she agreed to. She thought I'd keep pretending everything was okay. Instead, I went radio silent. No text. No call. No flowers. No I love you. Not even a note. I just didn't show up. At 7:46 p.m., the time we had that reservation, she called me. Then again, and again. I watched her name pop up while I poured myself a drink, alone, in silence. Then came the angry texts. Where the hell are you? Did you forget what day it is? And then the final one. Unbelievable. You're so childish. Childish. She called me childish. So I finally answered. Calm. Quiet. No yelling. I just said, I don't celebrate disrespect. Then I hung up. And I swear I felt something in me crack and fall away. Like a weight I didn't even realize I'd been carrying for months. Because now it was my turn to disappear. When I hung up, I expected her to come home swinging. She usually did. Slamming doors. Demanding explanations. Accusing me of being too emotional. But this time was different. This time, I didn't give her a scene to feed on. I didn't give her the argument she was itching for. I gave her silence. She walked in a little after midnight, heels clicking on the tile like she still expected an audience. I stayed seated in the living room. No lights on except the faint flicker from the TV, muted. Just a black and white movie playing behind me while I stared at nothing. She paused in the hallway, probably waiting for me to ask where she'd been, what happened, who she was with. I didn't. I just sipped my drink. Didn't even look at her. And you know what? That got to her. Seriously, she snapped. You're just going to ignore me now? Still nothing. I could feel her staring at the back of my head like she wanted to throw something. I half wished she would. At least then it would be honest. I had dinner with Becca and Megan. I told you that. Lie. She said drinks in her last text, not dinner. She was scrambling. I finally turned, slow and calm, like I wasn't dying inside. You ever check your voicemails? That stopped her. Her eyes narrowed. Why? You forgot to delete one. The one where you said I was pathetic. Her face changed instantly, like a glitch in the system. Panic. Guilt. Rage. All flickering across her expression like a reel spinning too fast. But she caught herself quickly. I was venting, she hissed. You're not perfect either, Noah. You've been moping around for weeks. I've been surviving for weeks, I said quietly. There's a difference. She scoffed and went to the bedroom. Door slammed. As usual. But I didn't follow. Didn't beg. Didn't ask to talk. Because I wasn't fighting for us anymore. I was watching what used to be us rot in real time. The next morning, she tried to act normal. Made toast. Played with her phone. Left the TV on loud like she was performing the role of a happy wife for invisible cameras. But I wasn't watching. I was packing. One bag. Just the essentials. I didn't leave that morning, but I needed her to see the suitcase. I wanted her to know this time was different. I wanted her to feel the weight of not being worth staying for. And judging by how pale she went when she walked in and saw it by the door, it worked. Where are you going? She asked, voice shaky. I didn't even pause before answering. Anywhere I don't feel invisible. She stood there staring at the suitcase like it was ticking. I could almost hear her trying to calculate how much I knew, what I'd seen, what I'd heard. That's the thing about people who lie too often. They panic when the script changes. Noah, can we talk? She asked, voice suddenly soft, shaky, almost rehearsed. I didn't sit. Didn't move. Didn't help her feel comfortable. Talk, I said. She swallowed hard, wringing her fingers like a kid caught stealing something small and stupid. Okay, I haven't been fair to you. I know that. I know I've been distant. That's one word for it, I muttered. She continued anyway. And I shouldn't have said those things on the voicemail. I was angry and embarrassed. You've been so emotional lately, and I felt suffocated. I shouldn't have talked about you like that. I watched her the whole time, not blinking, not buying a single word, because none of what she was confessing matched the tone of that voicemail. That voice wasn't frustrated. It wasn't annoyed. It was gleeful. It was cruel. She wasn't sorry she said it. She was sorry I heard it. So that's it? I asked. That's the whole truth? She nodded quickly, too quickly. Yes, I swear. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because of how painfully obvious her lie was. She wasn't even good at it anymore. Who was the guy laughing in the background? I asked. Her face drained of color so fast, it was almost impressive. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. That was just someone from work. He overheard. It wasn't. Don't, I said sharply, and she froze. Don't insult me more than you already have. Silence. She dropped into a chair, hands shaking now, staring at the floor. I could see the moment the facade cracked. The moment she realized she wasn't steering this conversation anymore. I turned to leave the room, mostly because I couldn't look at her without feeling physically sick. And that's when she whispered something I wasn't expecting. It wasn't supposed to happen. I stopped, slowly turned. What wasn't? Her lip trembled. Her eyes filled. Not the manipulative tears she used to weaponize. These were different. Messier, rawer, like she finally understood the ground was giving out beneath her. He wasn't supposed to come to the hotel, she said weakly. Hotel. Not bar. Not restaurant. Not girls' night. Hotel. A part of me knew. A part of me had known for months. But hearing it, that word, hit like a sledgehammer to the chest. I couldn't even breathe for a second. I asked the only question that mattered. How long? She didn't answer at first. She just stared at her hands like the truth was written on her palms, and she hated reading it. Then she whispered, 3 months. And in that moment, I swear I felt something inside me finally die. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like a light going out. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I didn't accuse. I just said, I packed the suitcase because I was leaving for a few days. Now I'm thinking it might be longer. Her head snapped up, fear all over her face. No, please. Noah, we can work this out. But she didn't understand. I wasn't leaving because she cheated. I was leaving because she didn't even care enough to hide it well. And that hurt more than the betrayal itself. I didn't leave that night, not because I forgave her, not even close, but because I needed to think. And you can't think clearly while dragging a suitcase through a thunderstorm with your chest ripped open. So I sat in my car in the garage for over an hour. No music, no engine running, just the sound of rain tapping against the roof and that one cursed word echoing in my head. Hotel. 3 months. She said it like it was a small sin, like it was just a slip. But do you know how many decisions you have to make, how many lies you have to tell, to carry out a secret like that for 90 days? You don't accidentally cheat for 3 months. That's not a mistake. That's a routine. The thing is, something still didn't sit right. The timeline didn't add up. There were details she didn't volunteer, gaps she didn't even attempt to fill. And if she confessed to a hotel, she must have thought I was already close to figuring out the rest, which meant there was more. So I did something I hadn't done before. I stopped trusting her words and started trusting my gut. I went inside, went straight to the office, and pulled out the drawer where we kept the shared laptop. She hadn't used it in months since she always clung to her personal devices like they were glued to her hand, but it had something she didn't think to hide, our old shared iCloud. When I opened the browser and checked sync data, my stomach twisted. There were location pings, screenshots, app data, even an email thread between her and someone named Dax. Not a work contact, not someone I'd ever heard of, just Dax. And the subject line? Your room's reserved. Key at front desk. I clicked. Read. Reread. My palms went ice cold. She'd booked it. She made the arrangements. She used a burner email to confirm the reservation, but it was tied to our family iCloud through a forgotten notes sync. Amateurs make mistakes when they get too comfortable. Then came the photos. No nudes. Nothing graphic. But selfies. Her, smiling in a robe. Him, shirtless in the background. Hotel curtains. Same couch we once sat on during our 3rd anniversary weekend. And the date stamp? 5 months ago. Not 3. She lied. Even in her confession. She lied to protect the part that really mattered. The part where this wasn't some emotional drift, or harmless rebound. This was planned, repeated, organized. It wasn't her first time, and it wasn't just some guy. It was someone she knew before me. Now everything made sense. The coldness, the laughter in that voicemail, the way she rolled her eyes when I brought up memories. It wasn't just disrespect, it was replacement. I wasn't being ignored. I was being phased out. She didn't want to fix the marriage. She wanted me to leave first. But I wasn't going to give her that win. Not yet. Because now that I knew the truth, I wanted to see how long she'd keep lying. I wanted to see just how deep her story would go before she realized the ground beneath her was already gone. And when I was done listening, then I'd finally speak. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. Made coffee. Left a little too much milk in mine, like she always did when she was pretending to care. Said good morning in a voice that tried to sound sweet, but cracked under the weight of guilt. I almost laughed. She thought my silence meant shock. Like I was still trying to process her confession. She thought I was fragile. What she didn't realize was I'd spent the whole night assembling a map of her deception, and every hour of pretending was buying me time. I wasn't crumbling. I was preparing. She hovered in the kitchen, peeking over at me like she expected me to ask about Dax. She wanted to see if I knew. But I didn't give her that. I gave her nothing. I sipped her milk-soaked coffee, kept my face blank, and nodded when she asked if I'd be home for dinner. That night, I wasn't. I went to a bar 2 towns over where nobody knew me. I needed space to think, to plan. I brought the hotel screenshots, printed them out, and folded them into my jacket pocket like they were blueprints. And I made a list, pen on paper, not digital. No trace. No risk of her snooping. It had 3 goals. Gather full proof without tipping her off. Protect my financial position before confronting her. Leave in a way that doesn't just end things, but ends her version of things. The next week, I played my role. Husband in repair. Hurt, but hopeful. She bought it, of course. She even started being affectionate again, like that would patch over everything she'd buried. She kissed me goodnight. She made my favorite meal. She folded my laundry. Every act felt like it was dipped in poison. One night, she sat on the edge of the bed, her back to me, and whispered, "I really think we can get past this." She meant her version of this. The version where I never found out about the hotel 5 months ago. The version where Dax was just a mistake, not a man she spent nights texting while I washed her dishes and paid our bills. I didn't respond. Just reached over and gently touched her shoulder like I accepted her apology. Like I was still blind. Meanwhile, during the days, I met with an attorney. Quietly, carefully. We mapped out what divorce would look like if she forced my hand. I moved some of my personal savings into a private account I'd opened in college and never closed. I collected documents, title to the car, my retirement plan, proof that I paid every major household expense. And then I made the most important move of all. I visited her mother. I hadn't seen her in nearly a year, but she always liked me. Said I was the only adult in Alicia's life. I didn't say much. Just asked for coffee. Talked about work. Then I casually mentioned how distant Alicia had been lately. Her mom's eyes darkened. Then she said something that confirmed everything. She told me months ago she was thinking about moving out. I thought you two were just arguing. She hadn't been distant because we were struggling. She was distant because she'd already made a plan. She was waiting until I was small enough, sad enough, lost enough, to leave without a fight. But I wasn't shrinking anymore. I was preparing to vanish on my terms. And when I did, I'd make sure her world was as empty as the lies she fed me. By the time the second week rolled around, Alicia had fully transitioned into her fix-it persona, cooking dinners she hadn't made in years, sending me nostalgic songs we used to love, even suggesting we redo our vows sometime in the fall. Her manipulation was layered in affection now. It was honestly impressive. She wasn't just trying to make me stay. She was trying to rewrite the narrative. But I didn't push. Didn't argue. I let her spin her little fairy tale while I quietly torched the foundation beneath it. Every day, I was 2 people. The grieving husband on the outside and the surgical strategist behind the scenes. I made it look like I was healing, like I was learning to trust again. But what I was really doing was removing every trace of myself from the wreckage. I withdrew my name from the joint credit card, froze my auto payments into the house account. I logged out of all shared subscriptions, took my name off the lease of the second car I bought for her. I even made sure our Wi-Fi account was no longer in my name. Each cut was clean, silent, unannounced. I wasn't just preparing to leave. I was preparing to disappear. But I wasn't going to vanish in the night like some heartbroken husband who couldn't take the pain. No, that's what she expected. That's what her friends, if they even knew about me anymore, probably joked about behind closed doors. That I'd break, cry, storm out. So I did the one thing she wasn't prepared for. I invited her to dinner. At the same restaurant where we got engaged. She dressed up, wore the red dress I'd complimented years ago, did her makeup like it still mattered to me. She walked in all smiles, looking proud of herself like she thought she'd won. She didn't know she was walking into the final act. The host seated us. Candlelit table. Familiar smells. The piano player in the corner was playing something soft and stupidly romantic. She reached for my hand across the table and said, "I'm glad you're finally seeing that we're stronger than this." I just smiled, tilted my head. "You know what I've realized, Alicia?" She blinked. "What?" "That love doesn't survive betrayal. It just limps behind it, pretending." She froze, her hand still halfway to mine. I leaned forward. "I know about the other guy. I know about the hotel. I know you lied about the timeline. I know you never planned to stay. I also know every account has been cleaned, every financial tie has been severed, and every backup plan you thought you had, gone." She didn't speak, so I kept going. "I gave you 2 weeks to tell the truth. You told me what you thought I already knew. That's not honesty. That's fear." Her eyes filled, but I didn't care. "Not anymore. You don't have to cry, Alicia. This isn't a breakup. This is a release." She started to speak, some trembling excuse ready to fall out of her mouth, but I stood up and left before she could finish. Outside, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel angry. I just felt light. And when I got home, the locks were already changed. My bag was already packed. The new apartment? Already set up. Utilities on. Fresh keys in my hand. She could have the house. I'd taken everything else. By the time the dessert menu hit the table, I was already gone. I didn't need to see how she reacted when she realized I wasn't coming back. I imagined she sat there for a while, stunned, maybe tried to convince herself I was bluffing. Maybe she even paid the bill herself, probably the first time in years. But that wasn't my concern anymore. I didn't block her number. That would have been too easy for her. No, I wanted her texts to come through. I wanted her to hit send and sit in the silence. I wanted her to feel what I felt for months. Ignored, dismissed, invisible. The first few messages were calm. "Can we talk? Please just let me explain. I didn't know you were going to do this." Then came the desperation. "Noah, come home. Please. I made a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I love you." That never changed. Then the guilt tripping. "I gave up everything for us. You're really doing this after 6 years? You're throwing away our whole life?" But what she never once said in all of those messages was, "I'm sorry." Not truly. Not without conditions or manipulation. Just regret wrapped in panic. The kind of regret that only shows up when consequences do. The next day, I woke up in my new place. A small apartment with plain walls and no memories. And it felt incredible. No ghost of her perfume in the hall. No wedding photos watching me sleep. No wondering what lie she was crafting that day. But the silence didn't last long. Around 10 a.m., I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. It was her mother. She sounded shaken. Said Alicia hadn't come home, that she was worried, that I needed to just talk to her for closure. Closure? I almost laughed. Alicia burned every bridge and now wanted me to hold her hand through the ash. I texted her mom back politely. "I'm safe. She's not in danger. I just don't owe her anything anymore." 2 hours later, Alicia called again. This time I picked up. She didn't say hello. Just started crying immediately. Not sniffling, sobbing. I stayed quiet, listening to her break apart on the other end. I wanted to feel something. Maybe pity. Maybe triumph. But all I felt was tired. Eventually, I asked, "Why now, Alicia? Why the tears now? Because I left, or because you lost control?" Her voice cracked. "Because I thought you wouldn't. You always stayed. Even when I treated you like garbage. I never thought you'd really leave." I closed my eyes. There it was. The truth. "You were right," I said. "I did always stay, and that was my mistake." She begged. Swore she'd change. Said she'd cut all ties with Dax. Said it was over. Said she'd go to therapy. Said all the right things too late. I let her finish. Then I said something I knew would haunt her longer than anger ever could. "I don't hate you, Alicia. I just don't believe you anymore." And then I hung up. Not out of spite. Out of peace. Because for once, I didn't feel like the pathetic one in the relationship. I felt free. It's strange how quiet the world becomes when chaos stops knocking at your door every night. A week passed. Then two. No calls. No messages. No unexpected visitors. Alicia had finally stopped reaching out, or maybe she realized I wasn't coming back, not this time. The silence that once terrified me became something else entirely. Peace. Not the fake kind where you pretend everything's okay, but the real kind. The kind that comes when you finally stop bleeding for someone who never tried to stop the knife. In that space, something unexpected happened. I started breathing again. Not the shallow, exhausted breaths I'd grown used to in that house, but deep, full ones. The kind that remind you you're still here. That you survived. I picked up painting again, something I hadn't done since college. I reconnected with an old friend from out of state who invited me on a weekend hike. I got a dog. Yeah, a real one. A rescue mutt named Griffin who doesn't lie, doesn't cheat, and loses his mind every time I walk through the door. Honestly, that dog healed parts of me I didn't know were broken. I even started sleeping through the night. No pacing. No wondering where she was. No phone lighting up with excuses. And as for Alicia, mutual friends say she moved in with her sister temporarily. I heard Dax ghosted her. Blocked her, even. I didn't smile when I found out, not out of cruelty. Just a quiet acknowledgement that karma didn't need my help. It handled itself. One afternoon, about 2 months after I left, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. Just a short note from Alicia. She said she was sorry. That she never expected me to leave. That she underestimated how much she hurt me. And for once, she didn't ask for anything in return. I didn't write back. I didn't need to. That chapter is over. But this one is mine. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I'm just new, wiser, stronger, and maybe a little softer too, but in the best way, because now I know what love isn't. And that's how I'll recognize it when it finally comes back around, in the right form.